I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update for Thursday, December the 19th, 2013. An IDF paratroopers reconnaissance unit came under fire during an operation in the West Bank city of Qalqilia. The unit responded to the gunfire and one Palestinian was killed, reportedly a member of the Palestinian security forces. The incident occurred early this morning while the paratrooper unit was operating to arrest a terror cell in the city. It followed an earlier incident last night in Jenin where a group of Palestinians attacked an elite IDF counterterrorism unit with hand grenades and Molotov cocktails. In that incident, the IDF soldiers responded with live fire and one Palestinian was killed, 8 others wounded. According to Palestinian news agency MAN, the unit was in Jenin trying to arrest Hamas leader Abu al-Hajjah, but left without him as a result of the violent clashes. The Associated Press reports that the Palestinians are willing to extend peace talks with Israel if a framework agreement is reached at the end of the 9-month period set by U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry. Chief Palestinian negotiator Saeb Erekat told reporters yesterday that while a final peace deal with Israel would likely not be reached by the Kerry deadline, but that if the two sides could reach a framework agreement by April the 29th that would specify borders, land swaps, security arrangements, the status of Jerusalem, and the refugee issue, among other major issues, they would be willing to extend the talks. Erekat said that after the signing of such an interim agreement, a final deal would need another 6 to 12 months, and suggested that Kerry could lead both sides to such a peace deal. The AP said Erekat's comments marked the first time the Palestinians have endorsed the U.S. idea of seeking a preliminary, not final, peace deal. Erekat also told reporters that Hamas was a legitimate party like any other and that they would be part of a Palestinian state. He said the upcoming Palestinian presidential elections would be a solution to the ongoing conflict between the rival parties, referring apparently to reports that a unity government between Hamas and Fatah would emerge. Ynet reports that Pope Francis is coming to Israel next year, albeit for a very brief stay. The pontiff will reportedly arrive in Israel on March the 25th of next year and will spend just under 48 hours in Israel and the West Bank. A delegation sent on behalf of the Vatican concluded its initial visit to Israel this week, and preparations are now reportedly underway for the papal visit. During the visit, the Pope is set to meet with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the Notre Dame Church in East Jerusalem. He'll also meet with Israeli President Shimon Peres, as well as with several religious leaders in Israel. The Pope will also tour Yad Vashem, the Western Wall, and Christian holy sites in Jerusalem. He will also host a large mass in Bethlehem, but due to time constraints will not hold a mass in Jerusalem as many had hoped. The March trip will be the Pope's first visit to Israel and his first visit outside of the Vatican, aside from a trip to Brazil, which was scheduled before he became Pope. The Jerusalem Post reports that 2 American universities have announced that they are withdrawing from the American Studies Association in protest of the association's recent decision to boycott Israel. As we've been reporting to you, the ASA voted on Sunday to endorse an academic boycott of Israel and support the BDS, or Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions movement against Israel, in protest of its policies towards the Palestinians. The BDS movement seeks to delegitimize the Jewish state. The ASA vote caused strong criticism from Israel as well as from major Jewish organizations here in the U.S., and now 2 universities are also rejecting the boycott. The American Studies program at Brandeis released a statement that they are withdrawing from the ASA, saying they view the ASA vote, quote, as a politicization of the discipline and rebuke to the kind of open inquiry that a scholarly association should foster. The program said, "We remain committed to the discipline of American studies, but we can no longer support an organization that has rejected 2 of the core principles of American culture, freedom of association and expression." And the American Studies program at Penn State Harrisburg also decided to withdraw from the ASA. Program chair Dr. Simon J. Bronner, who is a prominent member of the ASA, said the group's recent resolution to boycott Israel curtails academic freedom and undermines the reputation of American studies as a scholarly enterprise. The pro-Israel education and advocacy organization Stand With Us also reacted to the ASA boycott. They released a statement today calling the vote an act of shocking bigotry and ignorance intended to isolate and condemn Israel. The group's CEO, Roz Rothstein, urged the need to work together to expose the destructiveness and bigotry of BDS resolutions and to counter them. And several congressmen have also expressed their criticism of the ASA vote, including New York Representatives Gerald Nadler and Eliot Engel. Nadler said yesterday that the ASA stance applies a deeply offensive double standard to Israel and undermines prospects for a two-state solution and ultimately for an enduring peace between Israel and the Palestinians. Engel said earlier this week that he failed to see how cutting off ties with Israeli universities furthers the interests of peace and coexistence. He also noted the double standard, saying that Israel was the first country to be boycotted by the ASA, which he said has chosen to remain silent on the slaughter in Syria, the imprisonment of democracy activists in Iran, and other dictatorships around the world. Canada has once again called on the United Nations Human Rights Council to dismiss its special rapporteur for the Palestinian territories, Richard Falk. This time after Falk, who himself is Jewish, accused Israel of, quote, genocidal intentions against the Palestinians. Falk made the comments during an interview with a Russian television news program where he was asked about an article he had written in the past in which he had said that Israel was, quote, slouching toward nothing less than a Palestinian Holocaust. In response, Falk told the interviewer, when you target a group, an ethnic group, and inflict this kind of punishment upon them, you are in effect nurturing a kind of criminal intention that is genocidal. Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister John Baird said today that Canada completely rejects and condemns the appalling remarks made by Falk. Baird said Canada has previously called for Falk to be fired for his numerous outrageous and anti-Semitic statements, and these comments underscore once more the complete and total absurdity of his service as a UN Special Rapporteur, calling on the UNHRC to remove Falk immediately. Baird added that not only do Falk's comments undermine the fundamental values of the UN, they also belittle the terrible genocides that have tragically taken place throughout history and around the world. And Israel's Foreign Ministry spokesman Yigal Palmor also slammed Falk's recent remarks, saying this man has been known for years for his strident racism, verbal violence, and obsessional disparaging of Israel and others, and for that he was the target of unprecedented criticism by many in the UN, including the Secretary General. The fact that such a conspiracist hate-monger remains on the UN payroll, Palmor said, is a moral stain on his employer. The White House announced yesterday that former Deputy Secretary of the Treasury, Stuart Eizenstat, has been named Special Advisor to U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry on Holocaust issues. Kerry appointed Eizenstat, who has also served as Undersecretary of State for Economic Affairs and Ambassador to the European Union. Eizenstat also held the same position for Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and served under President Bill Clinton as Special Representative of the President and Secretary of State on Holocaust-era issues, where he negotiated significant agreements with the Swiss, Germans, Austrians, and French regarding restitution of property, compensation payments to slave and forced laborers, recovery of looted art, and bank accounts, as well as payment of insurance policies. And turning to our Shalom TV programming for tonight, Thursday, December the 19th, coming up at 6:30, some of our coverage of the recent Union for Reform Judaism biennial in San Diego, with Women of the Wall Chair Anat Hoffman being honored for her work for religious pluralism in Israel. Then at 8, former ambassador to the U.S. Michael Oren sits down with journalist, author, and Shalom Hartman Institute senior fellow Yossi Klein Halevi for a conversation about Israel called Grateful to be a Jew in This Time. That's from the Park Avenue Synagogue in New York City, with moderator, Jewish Week editor, and publisher Gary Rosenblatt. And then at 9, Voices of Israel with Deputy Speaker of the Knesset Moshe Feiglin. That's tonight here on Shalom TV and ShalomTV.com. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Thursday, December the 19th, 2013. I'm Teisha Bader.